Welcome, this is Peter and Raphael with Tradewind Manufacturing in sunny Phoenix. Appreciate you watching this. In the last video, we took this apart to show you how to replace this particular module, electric module. This is what operates the unit. Both the motor and the lights are operated by this particular module. When putting it back together, you'll receive the new module, usually by going online and ordering it. And notice you've got 3 screws, 1, 2, 3, and these are pre-drilled screw holes. So obviously 1, 2, 3. Be sure to differentiate these 3 screws with the 4 screws holding this top on. Never take this top off. This is UL approved and it has fusing inside of it that is not to be messed with by anyone but the manufacturer. So you're putting 3 screws back in to reattach the module. And there's 2 people doing it, one narrating and one as the installer. So this is the great thing about our VSL, very special lighters, because they're very simple to use, very effective, best ventilation unit you can get. And lastly, it's very easily repaired. And this is why we're showing you this. Notice Raphael is putting the self-tapping screws back in. And be sure to keep your screws separate because there are different kinds. And these would just screw right back into these self-tap holes. And along with having a screwdriver, it's good to have a screw gun like this. If you have one, you don't need one. All you have to have is a Phillips screwdriver. This makes it a little bit simpler, a little bit quicker. Might save you a couple minutes. And be sure never to over tighten them. Just tighten them to taut because they will hold. Okay. In the last video, if you remember, I told you to have a electrical testing device of some sort so that you can see that your power is off. Of course, you'd never want to work on a unit like this with the power on. And then you're going to reconnect your module to your liner unit. First thing is you differentiate these 2 wires, the 4 wires coming out, especially these 2 wires. The black and white go back to the power or the wires going to the fuse box. Here's your black and white, and of course there's also a green for ground. The ground will also go to this unit, to the module right here, but the black and white will go to the black and white here. Now here on these particular ones, you're going to attach this to the light bar, and the white will go with the white, and in this case, we put the black onto the yellow. This yellow is not a ground. It is simply the corresponding wire to go onto the black so that the lights can be switched. Okay? We'll connect that in a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and have Raphael connect the power. These are what's called wire nuts, very simple to use. You make sure you twist the wire real good together. You put the wire nut on, make sure it's tight, and then you pull both the wires to make sure that they're properly connected. While he's finishing this up, I can show you the next part. With the motor, we made these very simple to understand. There's only one way you can plug. It won't plug this way because these are high, medium, low, and common. And so this plug plugs right into the other plug wire, female, male, and you hear it click, and of course you pull, and you see that it's tight. And Raphael now is connecting the ground. Okay, let's just connect that real quick.
Make sure you thread the wires clockwise, and when you apply the wire nut, it should also be clockwise. That way you don't unthread the wire when you apply the wire nut.
So he's saying you've turned the two wires together clockwise, and you've put on the wire cap or wire nut and tightened it up
Clockwise as well.
clockwise as well. And this is what's called a zip tie or a wire tie. And what you'll do is you'll get these at the hardware, whatever, and this helps tie your wires up and make it a lot cleaner. And you know how to use these. What you do is you simply take the wire tie, you lace it through the clasp, and then you pull it tight. And then you will use your cutters again to cut off the excess, and again, it just looks cleaner. And this is what it'll look like when we finish, so let's go ahead and do that. So notice, now what Raphael is doing is he's tying these up, and then he will put the wire tie or the zip tie onto those wires. And two things it does, it holds the wires in place, keeps them from vibrating, also keeps them away from the LED lights for all practical purposes. Once again, you see all these wires here, we're gonna connect these two in just a minute. Now the next thing we're gonna do before we put these others on is we're gonna put the light bar back on. There's two wires coming out of the module that will be connected to the light bar. You notice first the small, and there's a little nodule right there to show you how to put it on. And you can tell when it's on properly, it snaps, and then you can pull on it, and it will not come out. And then on this again, you have your lighting, and it's all switched. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take these three wires and you're gonna wire tie them together. Again, this can all be done by one person. Now, on this one, you have to use a little bit bigger wire nut, okay? And you're gonna tie the three wires together, and you're gonna make sure you bring them all together, woven clockwise, and then you'll put your wire cap or your wire nut on clockwise. And when you get finished, what you're gonna do is, remember, you hold the wire cap or wire nut, and you pull each one of the wires to make sure they're in properly. Okay, go ahead, thank you, Raphael. Now this is very, very important what we're gonna show you here. Once again, notice, it's not a black wire going with the black wires, it's the yellow wire that's in the same wiring as that white wire, differentiated from the black and white going to the house. Many of the electricians make a mistake, and they put this yellow wire as a ground. It's not a ground, it's for the switching of the lights. So you're pretty much done. Now what you're gonna do is make sure you have a couple more zip ties for the wires, keep them tight. And remember we said on the light bar, you've got this clasp in the back. That's what will hold the unit on to the VSL liner. And he's putting the wire zip ties on. And again, this is designed very simple, so one person can do this kind of a repair. Okay, so we're ready to put it back together. Now, we always ask people to double check. You've got the module in and it's screwed tight. You're making sure that this particular plug is tight. You've got the wire nuts tight, you've already tested them. You've made sure that the motor is plugged in, and you're making sure that the unit is grounded, plus you have the white on white, black on black going back to the fuse box. Go ahead. Now notice how Raphael does it. Stand to the side if you would. Raphael's gonna put this back on, and there's a piece of metal here that this clasp here has to go behind. So here's the metal, and the clasp will go in. And when he gets it in there, he's gonna make sure all the wiring is clear from where we're gonna snap it up inside. See, it just caught and pushed up. Okay, so you see how he's pushing it up into the class area, and then he pushes it back against the back, and then what we simply do is we'll put these screws back in. And again, the screws go right underneath the lights, and you can see how simple they're going in, but with finger tight, and then Raphael will take the screwdriver. That's right. He'll take that screwdriver, he'll put it up in place. Always be careful not to scratch your unit with the screwdriver while you're putting that back up. Stainless steel is very beautiful, but can be scratched easily if you're not careful. So now all you're gonna do is get your stainless steel cleaner, clean it up, and then simply put your filters back on using the knobs. And you push it up into the channel closest to the lights, lift, insert it into the channel, set it down, and wiggle a little bit to make sure it's in properly. And your unit will, once again, once the power is turned on, operate correctly. Thank you very much for watching.